This was one of my dark horse rookie of the year picks because I figured he's going to play every day. He's going to play short and he's going to play at cores. That said, when you really zoom out and look at the way that he has been handled, look at the way that he has been fast tracked to the major leagues, and just kind of the whole process here in general with Ezequiel Tovar, it's pretty interesting, Jack. He has barely played above double A, 5 games in triple in 2022, then got hurt. And other than that's really it. This is a guy that just really hasn't played that many professional games, period. He was broke in 2018, 35 games at the rookie level. Then 17 more games 18 more games at the rookie level in 2019 before finishing the year in short season. Then in 2021, low A, high A. Of course, he put up great numbers at that point in low A. That was the first time he really kind of started to put it all together offensively. Then 2022 was his coming out party. He goes nuts and double for 66 games, gets hurt, comes back at the very end, plays 5 games in triple, and then gets a call up for 9 games at the big league level, struggles there. I would have felt like that would have been the prime time to start him in triple this year. Hindsight's 2020. Yeah. I obviously was very pumped about him being on the big league roster. His makeup is off the charts. He's a really good defender. The bat obviously was very impressive in Hartford and in a short sample size in triple, but it just feels like that this guy was rushed. And I think they're learning that now with where he's at, hitting 192 through 23 big league games with a 32% K rate. That's not who Tovar is.
No, it's not who Tovar is at all. But might I just negate, like, this was the year for him to start in triple and then get up? I think that we were saying that about Jordan Walker. We weren't saying that about Tovar. And that could have just been like us being biased last year when the Rockies called him up at the tail end of the year. But we were so excited when the Rockies called up Ezequiel Tovar. We were like, yes, there we go. Like they're immediately showing signs of the future. We were cool with that. I think that we were all in February and March sold on Tovar being the opening day shortstop for the Colorado Rockies. It would be hard for me to accept us going back on our word there because we were so excited for what's happening. Problem is, it's just been a really terrible start for him.
Yeah. So I would say, you think you bring up a good point there. And I think it's almost one of those scenarios where it's like, let's say we're the Rockies front office. I'm standing by, like, I think I would have done the same thing, but you also have to reflect back and say, were we wrong? And
probably,
I think we were wrong to be excited about it. And I think the Rockies might've been wrong to do it,
but like, we weren't wrong to be excited about it. You know what I mean? We were wrong in assuming that he was ready to never come back down.
That's basically what I mean.
Yeah.
So like, we were probably wrong to think that he could do it right away, because this is a dude that just looks really overmatched.
Yeah, but it's so hard to swallow because he looks so like seasoned. He looks like such a vet when he's.
He's the 25th ranked prospect. So let's talk about why he's the 25th ranked prospect.
Yeah.
Above average field to hit, fantastic defender, sneaky pop, and the ability to run on the base paths. And that's what really stood out to me too. And then again, I've talked about this on the pod, like a couple of his teammates I've been able to talk to, in Hartford, said that this was one of the most advanced players in terms of the mental approach too, which is why I think the Rockies called him up. Yeah. Just the way he carried himself as a 20-year-old, even was one of the only Spanish speakers on the team and made an effort to, learn English and interact with, which is rare to be on a minor league team where you're one of the only Spanish speakers, but it was just the way it shook out in Double-A Hartford. And that was a specific anecdote that I got, was like, he made such an effort to get to know everybody and communicate, though his English wasn't great as a 20-year-old who just came over a few years ago. So like, all of those reasons I think were why that the Rockies wanted to bring him up. And I'm glad that the Rockies aren't sending him down at this point. You might as well just let him ride it out, right? Like, just let it go. He's starting to show some signs of life. The last few games, he's been swinging it a little bit better. But it's starting to like impact him in the field a little bit. He hasn't been as impactful of a defender in the early going. And this is the thing that, watching the video, he will be a plus defender that I think could compete for Gold Gloves. And it's important to also note he's 21 years old. So I'm not worried about him at all. It's just an interesting detour in the progression here. And I think if you could do it over, you'd probably start him in triple, is kind of what my point is, right? Because then he would ease his way up, and then he wouldn't have all of these growing pains, because these are pretty extreme growing pains.
Yeah, and I'm totally with you. I think now that we are at this point in Ezequiel Tovar, I am fine stomaching the rest of the slow start to his career.
Just let it go the rest of the year. Just go.
Because again, this guy helps you out in so many other ways that aren't just in the batter's box. You mentioned, like, this guy's a Gold Glove caliber shortstop. That's who Ezequiel Tovar is, man. Like, on his worst day, he's speed and defense. Speed don't slump. Defense don't slump. Like, that's how that works, man. So we have to remember that this guy, well below the average age of AA and AAA hitters, had 14 homers last year in the minor leagues and was 17 for 20 in the stolen base department. Like, he is a nice blend of enough pop and good speed, along with that excellent glove that he has and that innate feel to play shortstop. This guy's going to be a big league shortstop for a long time. Unfortunately, the first chapter just isn't the best for him.
You know, it's a little reminiscent of like the CJ Abrams situation.
For sure.
100%. Rushed to the big leagues. We talked about it too. I loved that Abrams was up. And then I was like, wait, maybe he should have played a little bit more in the minors. And again, that's like, it's the game that we play. It's hindsight is a, you know what? And like, I think front offices are thinking about it and they're like, oh, maybe we should have done that. And like, that's kind of the way that things go. But at the same time, Abrams, another high makeup guy, demolished through stretches in the minor leagues and had the glove that improved so much to, you know, put him out there, see what he can do in game-changing speed. He's on a bad Nationals team, has the opportunity to play every day where it doesn't really matter and get better and better and better. Just hit a big grand slam the other night. Like, these little breakthrough moments, the glove is really making strides. I think it's a similar situation to Tovar. Just let him go. Let him go. Let him struggle. At this point, you're not playing for much. He's going to learn, and it's not going to get any worse. So I'm still looking at all-star upside of Ezequiel Tovar. My perspective on him has not changed whatsoever. I just think that where I feel like I was wrong was where he was at maybe in his progression, because if you go back and look, super aggressive chase rates, the approach wasn't totally there. And I think it was a little bullish to think that wouldn't trickle into the big leagues a little bit when you're chasing at about a 40% clip in the minors.
Yeah. Welcome to baseball, where it is the "what have you done for me lately" game. And like, we're talking about this guy like he's damaged goods 32 games into his big league career.
No.
We think this guy's going to play 1,500 games at the major league level.
No, I think he's going to be a multi all-star with big time impact on both sides of the baseball. I still believe that. That's the thing.
Do not panic about this guy. He is the best of the bunch when it comes to the Colorado Rockies future, and there are some excellent pieces to the Colorado Rockies future that we've already talked about.
Yeah, not very concerned at all. I'd still say minimally concerned, to put it that way.
Yeah.
Number 24, Brandon Pfaadt, right-handed pitching prospect, Arizona Diamondbacks. And for those watching on YouTube, you got a nice little clip here of Pfaadt spinning his nasty slider. Pfaadt's got great stuff across the board. Last year was really his coming out party. 6'4", 210 right-hander, above average fastball plus slider, above average changeup plus command, and a usable curveball. This guy had a crazy year last year, led the minors in strikeouts. We've talked about him a lot. I think he's next up to, get that promotion to the big leagues and make a difference for a competitive Arizona Diamondbacks ball club. I think they're kind of waiting for him to string together a few more impactful starts. It just seems like every time you're like, oh, he's got it. Then he takes a slight step back. Again, he's pitching in the PCL, but he went out in 2 starts ago, 7 innings, 3 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 8 Ks. I'm like, oh, maybe if he follows this up with 1 more, he might be up. Goes, pitches against Sugarland, 5 innings, 7 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, 5 Ks. Not a bad outing, but not exactly what gets you promoted immediately. So I don't know if it's a start-to-start thing. I don't know if they're waiting for something. They obviously had Tommy Henry up there. They've sent Trey Jameson back down. It's been interesting to see how they've been handling it. Obviously, DFAing Mad Bum. I'd like to see Pfaadt work through things at the big league level. I think he's proven to us that he's very, very good. He's going to continue to churn out very solid, either an okay to good start or the occasional really great start in a league that's miserable to pitch in. I just don't really want to see him pitch in AAA anymore. It's just that simple. I don't think he has much else to prove other than consistency, and why not prove that at the big league level? He can help them now.
That's the thing. This guy is big league ready. And I love the point you bring up where when it falls apart, quote unquote, it doesn't really fall apart. Like his bad outings are fine outings. And in Amarillo and Reno, that's an incredibly impressive feat to not have blow up outings. I look at what he's done since the start of 2022. This guy is punching out about 11 guys per nine. He's walking fewer than 2 per nine. Yeah. That's what you can control in those unbelievable environments, right? Like sometimes the hits are going to pile up because like end of the bat dinkers are going to sail over a shortstop's head and they're going to drop into shallow left, or a ball that would be a fly out in Florida or in North Carolina or in Georgia is leaving the yard and it's going 430 feet in Nevada. Pfaadt is so impressive in that regard. So far this year, 25 and a third innings, 30 punch outs, 6 walks. I'm going to pallet that. And I think that is big league ready. Having that confidence at the AAA level, being as young as he is, I think that this guy is ready to iron out the kinks with the Arizona Diamondbacks.
He's a fly ball pitcher in the PCL that has had pretty consistent.
It's going to happen, man. Yeah.
38% ground ball rate, yeah, which is crazy to have success there. Despite that, this is a dude that if he goes up to the big league level, I think he'll actually be better. So I'm really hoping that they do that soon because I think he's more than earned it. And I think it's coming because we're seeing teams with some urgency. I think the Diamondbacks have some urgency. They want to win. DFAing Mad Bum was that message, but instead of Tommy Henry, why don't we get Brandon Pfaadt in there?
They're a first place team as of time of recording, I think.
Are they? I love to hear that.
That's a lot of fun.
Oh, it looks like it's struggling big leaguer time because we go to number 23. Triston Casas, first baseman, Boston Red Sox. He's a graduated guy as well, but obviously ahead of the season, someone that we had ranked up there first couple weeks of the season, someone that we were going to have ranked up there. Every time he shows some signs of life, it seems to go right back a little bit too. This dude's approach is great. He also toes that like passive versus patient line. We see the flashes of insane power, but through 24 games, he's sitting 139, 284, 306, 65 WRC plus. It just hasn't been there for him yet. Another dude that's been banged up and lost at bats through the minor leagues. So you got to be patient. I know Red Sox fans are going to hate this, but I think that the Red Sox are in a position where they should let their young guy work through issues because they don't have that much to play for. It's just the reality for me. Like you're going to DFA him, you're going to send him down, option him, and stick somebody else at first that might be marginally better. Like they're not going to do that. So I like that Casas is going to get everyday opportunities to work through this. But as a guy that I had a 55 hit tool on, it hasn't looked that way yet. But I'm not too concerned about Casas. I will say I'm slightly more concerned about Casas than Tovar for what that's worth.
Yes. I'm going to point to one number. Tell me if this is valid or not. He had a 208 BABIP last year. So far this year, he's hitting a $139. He's got a 159 batting average on balls in play. Yeah, that's brutal. And like we know that BABIP, some of it is luck. Obviously, you look at the EVs and like how hard is he hitting the ball? Is he hitting the ball on the ground or in the air? This guy's like average exit velocity right now is over 90 miles an hour. So that's not a concerning number. I'm not sure why, because I look at the ground ball rate. The ground ball rate is palatable. The line drive rate is pretty good, but he's got a 159 BABIP. Like, how does that fix time? I'm not sure. That's 140 points lower than league average.
Yeah, it's a really interesting case, and honestly, one that I'd have to dive a little bit more into. I mean, you look at the xWOBA, which is the expected weighted on base average, is still relatively low. So it's interesting because he's hitting the ball hard, but then still doing pretty poorly in regards to the overall batting average on balls in play. It's a really bizarre case, and one that I'd have to dive further into. I think there's merit to it, though, to answer your question. But with that same notion, he's just not putting the ball in play enough. Just the ball in play rate, which is an important stat.
Sure.
I know even if you're a power walk guy, you got to put the ball in play more than 12%.
I mean, he's K'ing 30% of the time.
Yeah, and then walking the other 17%. So obviously, if you're home runs, if you're 3 true outcomes, you're going to have a low BABIP. And if you hit the ball in the air a lot, you're going to have a low BABIP. He hits the ball in the air a ton. He has a 32% ground ball rate this year. I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with that. But you're going to have to produce more if you're a low BABIP guy. Anthony Rizzo, I think, is a perfect example of this. Like Rizzo gets his. He's going to go yard enough. He's going to walk. He's going to strike out a little bit at this stage of his career, 22% K rate. And he's routinely been a low BABIP guy. 224 BABIP last year, and he was a really productive hitter. This year it's 290. And obviously he's been a very, very productive hitter. He's been even more productive than last year. So I think it's a little bit of bad luck. I think it's a little bit of just a ton of balls just launched straight up in the air, which will be a high exit velocity, but it's straight up in the air and it has a 0 expected batting average essentially. Yeah. I think that's part of it. But the number one thing that's standing out to me with Casas and his struggles is he's just not been great against breaking balls. What he is good at is spinning on them. So he's going to walk a lot. And it's interesting. If you look at sliders and curveballs, 360 on base percentage, but he's hitting a $174 and he's slugging 304. So he's not even crushing them when they're mistakes. So you're looking at it from this lens. It's really, if you locate the breaking ball for a strike, you can pretty much get him out right now. And I'm not sure why that is. I'll have to dive more into the swing mechanics and things like that. But right now, that's a surprise for me because he was very good against all types of offerings. He had that spread it out 2-strike approach where he wasn't really lifting the leg up. It was very simple. And all of a sudden now he's just really struggling with the breaking balls. And he's mostly only getting his production from the occasional fastball he runs into, and that's really about it. It's a bit surprising for me because I would not have expected these kind of struggles with the breaking ball.
He's got to do more sunshine on-field yoga.
Yeah. Is that all that's missing?
I think so. I think he's missing. I honestly do think that this might be a warm weather guy, like South Florida guy, I'm not sure what his minor league numbers look like in April and May, but he's spent April in Boston, Massachusetts when he's from South Florida. Like that's not easy.
And I mean, look, he's a 23 ranked prospect in baseball going into this year. It's going to take more than a bad 24 games for that to change.
But he's graduated.
He's graduated. So I would say I'm a little bit more concerned with him than Tovar. Where do you stand? More concerned about Casas or Tovar?
I just think that Casas is so bat reliant that when both of them are incredibly underwhelming bat wise, like I'm more worried about the bat reliant one.
Yeah. And I think the thing with Tovar is it's really just approach oriented, where with Casas, it's like there's something off there with the breaking balls, but zone contact hasn't been bad overall and he walks. So I think he's going to put it together and I think he'll be just fine, but might have to be a little bit more patient than we thought with Casas, who I thought was pretty advanced going in.
For sure. And like Tovar, the thing is Tovar's WAR is low, is below average, is negative because he has been such a bad hitter. But if this guy's a pretty bad hitter, he can still be a positive WAR guy. If Casas is an 85 WRC plus guy, he might still be a negative WAR guy. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. 22, Colson Montgomery, shortstop, Chicago White Sox. And I think we've yet to see Colson play this year. Still a little banged up.
Yeah, Rick Hahn, the GM of the White Sox, said that Colson's dealing with a back thing right now. So it's funny, as Rome crumbles on the south side of Chicago, you've got so many White Sox fans just saying, oh, good. Like the only prospect that means anything in the organization is also injured. So great time to be a White Sox fan, I guess.
Even weirder is that he's going to start in high A, which is where he should have been all year last year. He started the year. He's a high school draft pick. Remember that 22nd overall, 6'4" left-handed hitter who has exciting power projection. Hit the ground running last year. I know he got his first taste in 2021 at the complex, was great there. Then he goes to low A in 2022, dominates through 45 games. It's a 324, 424, 476 slash line, 4 homers, only a 21% K rate, walks 13% of the time. They promote him to high A. The batting average drops a little bit, but in terms of the strikeout to walk, he was even better. Walks equally as much as he strikes out, but he hits 258, 387, 417, 5 homers. Then Project Birmingham happens. He gets brought up to Double A, and in 14 games, he struggles mightily, like any high school, teenage to 20-year-old draftee would, as they're fast tracked to Double A for really no good reason. I put zero stock in the Double A stats. I put a lot of stock in what he did in low A and high A, and I put a lot of stock into the flashes that he showed. 6'4", 205, smooth swing, really good control of his body. And even factoring in those brutal 14 games in Birmingham, 89% zone contact last year. As a high school guy that was 20 years old, that's pretty damn good, especially with the power that he has. 103 mile per hour, 90th percentile exit velocity. And I think he's got room to add a lot more strength. This guy could have plus power and plus hit. Sign me up for that from the left side of the plate.
100%. I think, and I can't do the math off the top of my head right now, but I think if you took away the Project Birmingham disaster, he's probably looking at a 290 clip with a 410 OBP and a slug right around 450. That's awesome. Like, that is so good. I don't know if you can.
294, 407, 450.
There we go. Like, pretty much spot on there. So you're looking at a 300, 400, 450 guy.
Yeah.
That's perfect, man.
And when I tell you, man, like the power projection there, the moves in the box are super smooth, and he's 6'4", 205. It's like the Corey Seager starter kit in a way. I'm not comping him to Corey Seager. Left-handed hitting shortstop, though, with room to add strength. The power is going to come later, but the feel to hit is way ahead of his years. Like, you can kind of see some of the similarities there. I do have some questions about the glove. The arm's a little short. The actions can be a little bit spotty, but I think he could play third. He could play second and be an offensive force there. I think he's got a shot to be a solid defensive shortstop. Against Seager is a fine shortstop, but the bat's so good that you're okay with it. I do wonder if he thickens out a little bit. If he ends up moving to third, that's fine because the bat will carry there. I just love the upside and what we already have here with almost 90% zone contact and the power potential. This guy could be one of the best offensive, forces in the minor leagues very soon.
Yeah, so you dream on Seager and you settle on who?
I don't know. It's a great question because there's a lot of contact. So like how many left-handed hitting guys with already above average power, even if it doesn't get to plus, it's above average, that make that kind of contact. It's hard to find. It is really, so that's why I like the guys that are going to be ranked very high here are the balance of the high floor, high ceiling. Of course, Colson still has a wide range of outcomes as a 6'4" high school shortstop.
Yeah.
But relative to the profile, it's high floor, and then the ceiling is still crazy too.
Yeah. So I almost think, like the floor is Ryan McMahon offensive profile, which is cool.
What is that offensive profile?
It's 250-ish, 20 homers.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? Bigger lefty third baseman. I don't know. Like, the floor is a hard comp, but I love the Corey Seager starter kit comp you make at the top. Yeah. Colson, like, how, if you were to place a percentage on how confident you are that he stays at short, what is that percentage?
I'd say 50-50, 50-50, 60-40. Yeah.
Okay. I'll take 60-40. Like, hell, I'll take 50-50 for a 6'4" shortstop.
Yeah. It's something right around there. I'd say coin flip's probably fair. But I have a lot of faith in him just getting better. Like, Jackson Merrill stood out to me, and we'll talk about him in the final episode, of the way that he was able to get quicker and move and improve footwork. Like, guys can do that, even if they're big. And I think Colson could do that.
Yeah.
Number 21, a guy that's unfortunately on the shelf right now, but got a pretty good prognosis and should be back pretty soon. Endy Rodriguez, catching prospects, Pittsburgh Pirates, switch hitter. He was our minor league hitter of the year at Just Baseball. We've talked about him so much. We don't need to highlight that much. I think this is one of the more dynamic, fun, another high floor, high ceiling guy that is just, maybe the ceiling's not as high as a Colson Montgomery, but the floor, oh my gosh. Switch hitter, plus hitter already, with good defense behind the dish and the ability to play the outfield if you need. Above average power that he taps into every bit of in game because of his ability to lift the baseball. Dude's just an awesome prospect.
Yes. I'm not going to add much stat-wise. I will tell you that Endy is set to come off the IL in the next couple of days. And you saw the Pirates director of sports medicine say that in a tweet. But he's been here, he's been active while on the IL in Indy. Like I'm watching him out there catching a bullpen right now. So, Endy, what I will tell you is this guy has such an infectious energy about him. He is confident in the best ways.
Yeah.
You don't expect a kid like this to be as confident as he is in AAA, but in the best way, I think he knows that he's the man. Like he's still got stuff to figure out, but he's like, you know what? I've worked really hard to get as good at this game as I am, and I enjoy it. Like so much of why I'm good at baseball is because I enjoy playing it, and you can see that he really enjoys playing it.
$10,000 international free agent who was dumped for Joey Lucchesi. You got to have that chip on your shoulder.
He has that positive. He has that chip on his shoulder, but he also knows that he doesn't have much to lose right now. Like he knows that he has set such a high baseline for himself, and he can reach greater heights than his baseline with effort, and he puts that effort in. It's been really fun to watch Endy because he has not gotten off to the quote-unquote best start. Like he's not a 1,000 OPS guy like he was last year, but what he is doing is showing this like innate feel to be a situational hitter. This guy was driving in runs, like he was driving in a run every day when he was healthy. So, I mean, I can appreciate a guy while he's hitting like 220, 230, still figuring out ways to get runs in, and that's his deal. So even when he's not firing on all cylinders offensively, he's doing just enough to help his team win, and that's what you want from a catcher.
And what stinks is I feel like when he went down, you could speak to this better than I can, but when he went down, it felt like he was just starting to get it rolling. Yeah. It was the first few games that he had under his belt, and it was very cold, starting to warm up, and you look at the 15th, he had 3 hits and a home run. Then on the 18th, he had 2 more hits. And then on, I think it was the day he got hurt, on the 20th, he had a hit, which was a home run. So he was starting to come alive. You start to see that Endy Rodriguez, that we saw last year, and then unfortunately goes down with that injury. So it's good that he's going to be right back. Maybe there might be a little bit of a feeling out process after being out for a week, because baseball's not like riding a bike, but I expect him to get rolling. You mentioned about all those little intangibles, the way he controls his at-bats. And with a Pittsburgh Pirates team that's got some magic going on right now, he could be up there and help them by midseason, I think.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, obviously you want to see him come off the shelf and hit the ground running again. But yeah, man, I mean,
midseason.
You mentioned that homer the day before he got hurt. Like he hit 23 homers last year? I think 20 of which were from the left side. He's a natural lefty. He hit 3 from the right side. That homer the day before he got hurt was from the right side. So if this guy like finds the groove as a righty bat and a lefty bat, I think he can absolutely help them before the All-Star break.
And I really do like the righty swing. It's pretty similar, and he was extremely productive. This is a switch. This is a true plus hitter from both sides of the plate. And you mentioned the lefty side just being a little bit more powerful. He lifts the ball better, but to do what he does contact-wise from the right side, that's pretty nice to hedge lefty-lefty splits when you have a very solid contact hitter on the other side of the plate of yourself, which is just really cool. He's a special talent, and he can help them out in a lot of different ways if they keep making this run this year. Not even 23 yet.
Not even 23.
Next up, gosh, this stinks. Number 20, Logan O'Hoppe, catcher, LA Angels. Man, he was off to such an unbelievably good start, and he is so darn good. This was one that we had up there before the season. We had up there last season because at the end of last season, because every metric pointed towards O'Hoppe being above average on both sides of the baseball. Mid-80s zone contact, above average 90th percentile exit velocity, great chase rates. The statistics you cannot deny. He was great before the trade for Brandon Marsh. He was great after. He was even better after the trade for Brandon Marsh. The dude rakes. He was a glove-first catching prospect that had it all click offensively. It's above average hit tool to almost plus. It's above average raw power. It's above average defense. And man, he was off to an unbelievable start. He was, when we gave out our picks on the Just Baseball show, that was my dark horse rookie of the year pick. I was feeling really good about that. And then unfortunately, he tears his labrum on a swing. Similar to what we saw with Josh Young, hoping he can get back maybe at the very, very, very end of the season. Fortunately, not the throwing arm. But that sucks for the Angels, who he was playing an integral part for them. A team that's desperately in win now mode. And it stinks to see Logan O'Hoppe go down.
For sure. What I can really appreciate is that guy unlocked a level of slug that I was not expecting at the big league level right away. And really small sample. He's had exactly 75 plate appearances in his major league career to this point. But I mean, Ohapi, he was slugging 550 before he went down in about 15 games. So if this guy can slug 550, that unlocks a whole new level of Logan Ohapi that I don't think I was expecting, and you kind of expect with 55 game,
but not to that degree. That he was putting up 60 power.
Yeah. So I mean, if this guy is 60 and he's a slightly above average defensive catcher, I mean, we're looking at a guy that holds down, a big league backstop position for 10, 15 years.
Yeah. And even just looking at it now, like I think it was 55 power. Like the max exit velocity didn't change, but he was getting to that 90th percentile. Like he was getting to what we saw him post a lot more. Like we saw him get to the 105s, 106s, 107s a lot more, which is a testament to him finding a way to tap into the power more, get the ball in the air more. And his 90th percentile small sample size was 106. So not a big change in max exit velocity, but a big change in 90th percentile that jumps like multiple miles per hour. Small sample, but I think that says something. Logan Ohapi is a special talent. Hope he gets back, but he's going to be a good, like you said, a good backstop for 10 to 15 years. Athletic too.
Yeah.
Next up, PCA, Pete Crow Armstrong, former guest of the podcast. Hopefully we'll have him on again soon. This is another dude, Chicago Cubs center fielder, best defender in the minor leagues, as you can see, at least in the outfield, as you can see by the 70 present, 80 future defense in center field. What has stood out to me the most about PCA, though, so far this year, Jack, as he gets accustomed to Double-A, where I thought he would have some growing pains as an aggressive hitter with limited reps overall because he missed that whole first year of pro ball with a shoulder issue as well.
Yeah.
The hit tool. He's aggressive, but he hits 16 pitch at bat the other day, and he hits a grand slam. I can't believe how well he has started in Double-A, given how high the chase rates were last year. The contact rates are fine. They're not great, but it's unbelievable. This dude just hits, and we know the power is above average ultimately, but he's tapping into that a little bit more than I think people expected too. Obviously, we had high hopes given that he was a top 20 prospect for us going into the season, but he's even exceeding those hopes. This guy could be top 10 in the midseason update or better than that.
So 119 minor league games under his belt, 6 in low A with the Mets in 21. Then he had 38 in low A last year, 63 games in high A last year, and 12 games in double so far. So 119 games. This guy's slashing 317, 383, 522. It's a 905 OPS. So I tell you this. I tell you what his offensive numbers are. And then I ask you this question. Is that the first 80 field grade you've ever handed out?
Yes.
So the best hitter or the best defensive outfielder in the history of Just Baseball's top 100 is, oh, by the way, a 900 OPS guy.
This is the Mike Harris starter kit, but I think he could be Mike Harris. That's the thing.
So cool.
A lot of similarities to Mike Harris. They're almost carbon copies because maybe he doesn't hit the ball as hard, but I would say, it could become that way. He's still a year younger, which is crazy. Pete Crow Armstrong still just turned 21 years old, is having success in Double-A. His arm,
his first year was.
Yeah, literally. His arm is a rocket in center, much like Mike Harris. He hits the ball harder than you'd expect, like Mike Harris. He's extremely aggressive, yet overcomes it with insane swing malleability, meaning he's able to get to pitches up, down, in, out, which is you can see in that 16 pitch at bat. Effective on the base paths, and he's not going to walk, but he's going to hit. If Pete Armstrong can cut down on the chase rate a little bit, I think he'd be in great shape. But similar to like I was talking about with some other guys, I think I mentioned this with Ellie De La Cruz. How do you tell a guy that's hitting 306 to swing less? How do you tell a guy that's slugging 551 to swing less?
I think you're okay with it because even at this point, he's Michael Harris, who just won the NL Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
There are Hall of Famers that didn't make the best swing decisions.
Yeah. And I
This
think
guy has this God-given ability. Just let him eat.
yeah, let him eat. If something comes up, if he struggles, beautiful thing is we'll know, hey, that 45% chase rate, like cut that down a little bit.
Yeah.
But for now, who cares? What stands out to me too, hitting the ball in the air way more now. He was putting it on the ground too much last year. He made a little bit of a change. You can see him getting into his back hip way better now. And there's a concerted effort in his load. You can tell that there was a specific thought there to do that. Ground ball rate's only 24% so far this year. This dude is lifting the ball in the air. He's already got 2 home runs, 2 triples, and 2 doubles out of his 15 hits. He's slugging, and he's not striking out too much for a 21-year-old, newly turned 21-year-old in Double A. Next up, we got 18, Jackson Holliday, shortstop prospect with the Baltimore Orioles. Number 1 pick last year. Just hit his first high A home run yesterday. He got promoted.
Right.
Got promoted right after a multi-home run game in low A. Holliday, now you're seeing why he had so much helium going into this season. Obviously, he was a number 1 pick. Number 1 pick's always going to have helium. But he had even more helium than the typical number 1 pick because of what he was doing on the backfields. I think the buzz started to really, really pick up and how advanced he looked even in his cameo last year, where he went straight to low A as a teenager out of high school and put up strong numbers there and held his own at the plate, walked, didn't strike out. Now in high A, it's going to be a challenge for him. I definitely think for the 19-year-old prospect, a young 19, it's going to be a challenge. He still has some lower half stuff he needs to iron out. He leaks out a little bit with the front side, can drift from time to time, which I think saps the power a tad because there is potential for above average to plus power. Right now it's, fringy, but he's still tapping into it. He's got 3 home runs through his first 16 games. This is a 5-tool shortstop potentially here with plus hit, above average to plus power, above average to plus speed, and above average to plus defense. You got a potential 5-tool shortstop in Jackson Holliday, which is crazy given the upper level talent that the Orioles have already right now.
Yeah, 8 games at the complex, 25 games in low A, and at this point, 3 games with high A Aberdeen. So 36 games down the chute in his minor league career. He's slashing 323, 488, 535. That's a 1024 OPS. He's driven in 26 runs in 36 games. He's walked 42 times, and he struck out 28 times. You can't ask for a better start to a professional career for Jackson Holliday. And he's one of the very few guys that Jeff Passan is tweeting about getting promoted from low A to high A.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
that's
right.
The kind of intrigue he's got.
That's a great point. That's a great point. And again, if the lower half gets ironed out, I think we could see plus power. The ground ball rates are a little high because of that lower half situation, but the chase rates are minuscule. You mentioned the walks, the on-base percentage, the swinging strike rate's extremely low. This is somebody that commands their at-bats better than almost any 19-year-old you're going to find. Left-handed hitting shortstop with 5-tool potential and bloodlines, Matt Holliday's son. It's easy to see why so many people are falling in love with Jackson Holliday already with only half a season of professional games under his belt at this point. Maybe actually less than that, a quarter of a season in professional games under his belt.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
How much stock do you place in bloodlines?
Not as much as others, I would say.
Like a teensy bit, but the people that are Andrew Jones is a Hall of Famer, maybe. So Drew Jones is for sure a Hall of Famer.
No, I don't really buy that stuff. To me, it's 5% in the 100%, building of the profile, maybe 8%. I just can't put much more stock into it than that. I think it gets a little far. It just becomes such an easy, almost buzz phrase to bring up and a buzzword to bring up. It's just oh, this guy's the son of this guy. So when I'm trying to make the case, it's oh, well, this is another thing that puts him over the top, but at the end of the day, there's a lot more that goes to it.
So in 25 years, when Bobby Witt III and, this random guy are identical shortstop prospects, but Bobby Witt III's dad is Bobby Witt Jr., and then the other guy's dad is an accountant.
That will it'll always be the bloodlines. It's just the way it is. It's silly. I would almost rather blind test it, not know who they're related to. And then if you really can't decide it's that close, then you use that as the final, push them across the finish line kind of thing.
Well, I remember that's when Bronny James wanted to wear a number that wasn't 23 or 6, right? He wanted to carve his own path.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't wear
That's
your
kind of
dad's
hard to
number,
do.
kids.
It's a little hard to do. Number 17, Curtis Mead, third baseman, Tampa Bay Rays. And Curtis Mead off to a little bit of a slow start in AAA this year. Not really concerned about it. He had a taste of AAA last year and was great for 20 games after also destroying AA pitching for 56 games, 146 WRC plus in AA, 129 WRC plus in AAA. That was last year. So far this year in 20 games, he's slashing 222, 293, 370. Not striking out egregiously, sub 20% K rate. But, anytime you see a 64 WRC plus from the number 17 prospect in baseball, you do kind of look up, and say what's going on. I don't see anything really egregious. I don't see anything standing out. I think it's a little bit of a combination of bad batted ball luck, just a bit of a slow start for a 22-year-old in triple. But he's not whiffing. Overall looks fine. The swing decisions could be a little bit better. I think that might be the only thing, and it's more advanced pitchers maybe kind of picking him apart a bit. But I think Curtis Mead's going to hit his stride here and have a really nice second half of the season. But I think he'll get going even before that.
Yeah, and I think even picking him apart feels a little bit drastic. You know what I mean? Because it's not like he's being totally outmatched by AAA pitching. I think that this is a guy, and we heard the extension rumors for Mead before his MLB debut in spring training. I think that this is still a guy that would make sense for that type of thing because we know that the struggles aren't going to last very long. He's such a safe player, man, and he's a big body. He can mash. He can play a decent defense at either of the corners. I think that this is one of the safer guys in the top 20.
22 in triple. Really there's no rush because the Rays are very covered right now at the big league level. The thing that's been standing out to me with Mead is he's been seeing more sliders than ever. And the scouting reports are going to get better in AAA. And he had some success against sliders in the lower levels, but now better located sliders. He's seeing more sliders than fastballs. And he pummeled fastballs last year. He still has pummeled fastballs this year. That's the craziest part. I told you the slash line overall against fastballs this year, he's got a 911 OPS. But what's happening is he's seeing less and less and less of them. And now he is seeing sliders more than any other offering. So far this year, he's 1 for 22 against sliders. So that's where the kind of more experienced pitching kind of picking on him a bit. These guys get the report. They command their slot, even if it's not an elite slider. I got confidence in it. I can throw it in any count. They're throwing it in any count. And, it's been a bit of a struggle for him. I'm not concerned about Curtis Mead figuring out how to hit sliders a little bit more effectively. He'll work that out. And I think that's really the difference for him right now. It's just the ability to hit sliders. We're seeing Gunnar Henderson struggle with that at the big league level. We're seeing a lot of different prospects struggle with that are still insanely highly regarded and very productive. That's the one thing for Mead. That's why he's in triple. He's going to work through it, and he's going to be a very good hitter and a rare blend of potentially above average hit to plus hit and plus power. And the defense has gotten better at third.
100%. We are nearing the hour mark, so I'm thinking we could restructure if you want.
Yeah.
We could go 16 and 15 in the next episode, 14-1.
I agree. I think that's the way we do it. And so that'll lead us to Tyler Soderstrom, and then we'll also have Francisco Alvarez, and then we'll call it a day there.
Cool.
Tyler Soderstrom at 16, first baseman, Oakland A's. You could probably put first base / catcher, but ultimately, I'm going to put him at what I think he's going to play, and it's first base. The reason why he's still 16, despite that, on this list is because the bat is that special. 21 years old and doesn't turn 22 until next season. So he's going to be 21 for the entirety of this season, and he is already putting up good numbers in AAA. Another guy that I'd like to see walk more, chase rate around 35%, but 85% zone contact, hits the snot out of the ball, 107 mile per hour, 90th percentile exit velocity. I love the swing. The moves are so efficient. He uses the ground so well to tap into plus raw power already. He hit a 114 mile per hour bomb, 466 feet off of Brandon Pfaadt. Every time I see an advanced pitcher, like either a journeyman big leaguer or a top pitching prospect against Soderstrom, he battles, man. if he gets a little bit better with his swing decisions, this dude is going to be one of the biggest offensive forces in the minors. I think he can, get by if you want to play him at catcher every once in a while in an emergency, like that emergency third string catcher. Like, it's not like he is a disaster of all disasters, but he's a first baseman. And I think we're already seeing that he's starting to play a lot more games at first. But again, this bat is special. Brett Beatty-esque, I think, is what it could be, with maybe even a little bit more power, which is saying a lot.
Yeah, I love the point that you bring up when you see a guy that is a journeyman big leaguer or a legit pitching prospect. He like almost elevates his game. I think the most competitive guys at the double and triple A level will kick it into a new gear when they see a guy that has service. Like, having big league service time is something that a lot of people wear loud and proud in the triple A level and the double A level. And I think you see these quote unquote golden ticket prospects, like we're talking about a first round pick. They want to prove it against guys that have been there. So they say, This is elevated competition. Let me up my game. And that is the sign, I think, that there's a serious competitive fire in Tyler Soderstrom if he is elevating his game against guys that have service. Like, again, bringing up Priester again, I was talking to him about, facing Joey Votto, and he was like, that was really cool. But like, even seeing a guy like Nick Senzel and Michael Ciani, we don't view those guys in a top 100 light, but he views them in the way that he needs to elevate his game, because Nick Senzel is a guy on a big league rehab assignment, and Ciani is a guy that has big league service time. So I'm sure when Tyler Soderstrom sees a quadruple A reliever, the ones that we are branded, he sees, I'm facing a big leaguer. I'm going to prove that I'm better than that big leaguer.
And that's kind of like, it's almost a badge. If you have service time, it's a badge, and it's a barometer for success too. Where am I at? And it's funny, we were talking about Forrest Whitley. He doesn't have service time, but he has looked great, really, really good with the Astros so far this year. He took Whitley deep, mentioned Brandon Pfaadt. He's taken Tommy Henry. He hit a bomb off of. Like, he has some really good at-bats, and some of his most impressive hits this year, extra base hits, are against guys with service time. So I think that kind of backs that up. Again, he's 21 years old, and I think this is going to be I think he's going to have that Matt Olson type arc offensively.
That's
where
so cool.
35, 40 homers is in the tank. I really think it's in there as he irons out the approach a little bit more. But this swing plays. This is just one of my favorite swings in the minor leagues.
He was your first week pick to be minor league hitter of the year.
Yeah.
And if the A's manipulate at the beginning of next year, I think he can still be pre-arb when the team moves to Vegas. So this is one of those like building blocks that Oakland has moving forward.
And I'm cool with him spending most of the year in triple. Just go off, put up good numbers, and then maybe get the September call up. This is somebody that I want to see him get really comfortable at tapping into his power in games, because this is special power. This is 70 grade power. And I want to see him get comfortable at consistently tapping into that in games. He's going to strike out a little bit. I think that'll get better as he hones in on the approach, because again, the 85% zone contact is pretty darn good for a guy of his power and of the kind of swing that he has, which generates lift and just carry, like very few offensive prospects in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
Speaking of lift and carry, here's another guy that does it as well as anybody. Francisco Alvarez, to wrap up the episode. Catching prospect, New York Mets. He's up with the big league team. We've talked about the situation. They're starting to play him a little bit more consistently, at least from what I've seen, which is good. The defense has improved a ton, and I think that's a testament to his work ethic and the makeup there. But he's just not quite ready for the big league level. We've talked about that. That's one that we've got out in front of. We can't say it's the hindsight, never mind, he shouldn't be up there thing. Like, we've said that from before. High fastballs have chewed him up. And, that's the scouting report, and they've been using those on him in triple. They're using it on him at the big league level. But Alvarez, he still will get his. He'll still pound the mistakes if you leave it there. He hit his first home run of the year the other day. The kind of power that he offers as a 21-year-old, also, by the way, same age as Tyler Soderstrom, 21 years old. The kind of power that he has with the improvements defensively and everything that he brings to the table, his upside is one of the best catchers in baseball. But the hit tool looking more like a 40 than a 50, does highlight some of the risk. But man, even if he struggles all year long, he's 21 years old and he has a track record of hitting as many home runs as any catching prospect we've seen in the minor leagues in some time. But he had 24 home runs in 2021. He had 27 home runs in 2022, 28 home runs in 2022, if you add the one in the big leagues.
Yeah.
This guy hits bombs.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the more fun prospects in the game. Like, does that mean best prospects in the game? Yes and no. Like, yes, meaning he's certainly top 15. But, you see some outlets, I think Pipeline has him at 3 right now.
Yeah.
3 feels really aggressive because we think that, there are some, like, better young catchers than Francisco Alvarez. Like, I don't know. We were pretty dead set, and you were pretty dead set on Gabby Moreno being a better prospect than Francisco Alvarez last year. And I think that is true, and you see that right away because Alvarez has a much lower floor than Moreno does. But this dude, like, I can see the chain popping in New York going crazy for this guy when he hits his 5th homer in 5 games. So I think that there is so much fun to dream on with Francisco Alvarez.
The trend of this episode has kind of been like concern, right? Because a lot of these guys are guys that have been promoted.
Yeah.
Concern level for Francisco Alvarez has got to be near the bottom, right? I mean, for me, it might be, I think it's slightly above Tovar, well below Casas.
Yeah. I would say Tovar, because Alvarez is not like a smooth, lean athlete defensively. Like, he's not going to be one of the best defensive catchers in baseball. Tovar is going to be one of the better defensive shortstops in baseball. I think because you can rely on that bedrock of defense with Tovar, I'm less concerned about Tovar. But Alvarez, he's always going to whiff. Like, he's going to be 35 years old and he's going to whiff.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about the rough start because, like, you're going to ride the highs and endure the lows for the entirety of his career.
21 years old. They're spinning the hell out of him right now. He's going to learn. He's going to work through it. He's seeing sliders 41% of the time. I haven't seen many guys get sliders like that's Javi Baez type. Like, they're giving it to him that much. And he's chasing them 41% of the time. He's learning how to recognize big league and AAA sliders. That is a lot for a power hitting 21-year-old catcher who is, I was going to say, who's a catcher. So, like, there's a lot on his plate right now. And I think he's going to work it all out. And clearly the Mets feel like he can handle the adversity at the big league level. And clearly they feel like he can help them at the big league level. So sure. Alvarez, wide range of outcomes, but I feel good about, at the very least, a good chance of him running into enough baseballs to be a very good power hitting catcher that is improved enough to be a solid defensive catcher as well. If the hit tool is average, he's one of the best catchers in baseball. So that's the fun part about it.
Yes.
Any final thoughts, Jack, before we call it a week?
It was an interesting group of 11 that we walked through today, I think. And we spent a good bit of time on, like, Gavin Williams and on Outman and all those guys at the beginning. But, like, the motif of the episode, I feel like, was we've got young stars that are struggling. And it was, how hard are you pressing the panic button? And, like, while it's important to do, it's not the most fun thing to do. And as we get to walk through 14-1 next time, I think that's going to be like where we re-tap into the fun.
Yeah, I agree. And it also shows you, like, most of these guys struggle when they come up. And that's
like, welcome. It's your welcome to the show moment. Like, hey, you might suck for 2 weeks.
Yep. It might just happen. But that'll do it for this episode. I do think the next 14 will be a lot more positive, but you got to highlight what you got to highlight here. And at the end of the day, I think you and I don't feel much different than we felt going into this year, as these guys are some of the top prospects in baseball. And even with a big league struggle, that doesn't change much. And they'd still be right around the same range if we did the list over right now. And that's why they're here. So hopefully they can work it out. That's what comes with the territory. And we will be talking top 14 prospects with you on Monday's episode.